Welcome to Surviving the Side Hustle, the podcast for high performers who've gone all in, but still feeling a little stuck. I'm your host, Rob Tracy, coach, speaker, and creator of the Prime Performance Process. If you're a solopreneur, small business owner, or just launched your side hustle and you're tired of grinding with no momentum, this is for you. Every week, we bring you guests that have broke the code, generated momentum, and finally got unstuck. And we're diving into their stories, their struggles, and their secrets to generating massive momentum in both their personal and professional lives. We don't do fluff here. We do frameworks, real talk, and share the kind of insights that get you unstuck for good. Welcome, and let's get rolling. But before we dive in, I gotta remind you, if you're overwhelmed, spinning your wheels, or just tired of hustling without the results, it's time for a Prime Performance Strategy session. In this free call, we'll zoom out on your life and business, identify the real reason you're feeling stuck, and build a game plan to help you reclaim your confidence, energy, and gain some clarity so you can get back to doing what you set out to do. Lead, grow, and thrive. This isn't surface level coaching. It's a system built on resilience, intentionality, clarity, and alignment. So head over to survivingthesidehustle.com/free call to grab your spot today. Again, that's survivingthesidehustle.com/free call. Let's get going and help you look good, feel good, and do great things. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another Friday recap episode of Surviving the Side Hustle. I'm super excited here, and I'm about to kick off with a question like I normally ask you guys here on these recaps. And the question for you guys this week is, what if the biggest thing holding you back wasn't actually a lack of knowledge, motivation, or opportunity, but it was actually the stories that you've been telling yourself for years? That's what this conversation would, this week's guest, Stanley Bronstein, challenged me to confront. Because Stanley's story isn't just about how he lost over 220 pounds, I should say. It's actually about something much deeper. It's all really about the moment you stop lying to yourself and you allow yourself to start telling the truth. So, if you haven't listened, go back and check out that episode that dropped this week. It's a great one. And if you don't have time, here's a quick Spark Notes version. Stanley Bronstein is an attorney, a CPA, an author, and a systems thinker with over 4 decades of professional experience. And I want to emphasize something that Stanley corrected right away. He's not a former attorney or CPA. He's still both. The difference is now he works by choice, not necessity, not for the money, but for meaning. That alone should make you pause and kind of think, because most people don't redesign their lives to that level of agency. Stanley, his journey really starts early. I believe he was 8 years old when he lost his mother. And what really struck to me wasn't just the loss, but it was the emotional shutdown that followed that. No tears, didn't cry, no processing, just strictly survival mode. That unprocessed grief didn't just disappear, as it doesn't for many of us. It showed up as weight, isolation, and self-destruction. Stanley put it bluntly in our conversation. He said, "I wasn't committing suicide. I was committing slowicide." And that was pretty interesting because I've never heard that before. And it's interesting because he says that slowicide doesn't look dramatic. It looks normal, comfortable, socially acceptable. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. And I want to kind of get into some other things here. So like one most important distinction that Stanley made was that I guess he should say, I knew I needed to lose the weight for 42 years. I acted in year 42. So think about that. He knew he needed to lose weight, take control of his diet, start doing things better for 42 years. But he waited until year 42 to actually take some action. And that's really the difference between intellectual awareness and real awareness. Real awareness requires truth, ownership, action, because knowing without acting isn't awareness, it's avoidance. Stanley said it best: I changed my life in an instant, but it took me 42 years to be ready for that instant. And he shared how on February 1st of 2009, 4 months before his 50th birthday, Stanley asked himself a brutal question: where will I be in 5 years if I don't change? And to be honest, he didn't like the answer. So he made a decision, not a wish, but a resolution. It was a decision. On the spot, he stopped drinking alcohol, drinking soda, eating foods that didn't serve him, and he started walking every single day, taking personal responsibility and really designing permanent systems. No blame, no drama, just pure ownership. And this was a huge theme throughout the entire conversation that I had with him. Temporary changes give temporary results. Permanent changes give permanent results, Stanley said. And he shared how he didn't rely on willpower. He relied on identity. He didn't just ask like, okay, well, what should I eat today? What's healthy? What can I have that's healthy? Should I go for a walk today? Should I have a drink today, or should I stick to it? Those decisions were already made in his identity that he committed to changing. That commitment is what removes friction for people. Stanley reframed discipline in a way that I really enjoyed hearing him say. He said, discipline isn't punishment. A lot of people think that. Discipline is actually self-respect in action. Stanley has now walked over 70,000 miles. It's taken him 17 years, I should say, but that's nearly 3 times around the earth. Not because he's superhuman or he's super strict with everything, but because he built the habits, systems, and that identity around who he decided to be. You want to think about like short-term thinking mortgages your future. Stanley was saying how long-term thinking invests in it. Stanley eats, moves, and lives like his life depends on it. Literally because it does. And here's the key shift that he made. He said, I don't have to do these things. I get to do them. And that perspective alone is very transformational. Yo, what's up? Sorry for interrupting. It's me, Rob. If you've been listening and thinking, man, I just know I'm capable of so much more, but something's just really not clicking, well, I've got something for you. It's called the Prime Performance Personality Quiz. And in just a few minutes, you'll uncover what's actually slowing you down. So whether it's a mindset block, energy drain, or a lack of clarity, this quiz is going to give you specific insights to help you build momentum again. Again, this quiz is free, fast, and honestly, freakishly accurate. So take it now over at survivingthesidehustle.com/quiz and stop spinning, start winning today. It's very important to relate back to entrepreneurship too, because there's a lot of things where entrepreneurs, business owners get to do that a lot of people with typical 9-to-5 jobs don't get to do. That's why starting a side hustle is great, because there's so many new things that people don't get to experience that really just kind of waking up, you're already outside of your comfort zone, and that leads for a lot of room for growth. Another powerful thing that Stanley was saying in our episode is one of the most powerful parts of what he had to share was that nothing really had to do with the weight. See, it was all about healing his grief. He had described that meeting a younger version of himself at a funeral, really allowing him to finally kind of break free and cry and embrace that grief. Lying between his parents' graves and forgiving them. And it's really important here because you can't optimize a life that's still carrying unresolved emotional weight. Growth requires some closure. And that's really what allowed him to kind of step into this new form and identity. And I want to take a second here to kind of talk about what this all kind of bred to, because when he was stepping through this grief, stepping into this new identity, he really created what he calls is the way of excellence. And it's cool because it's a human operating system. And if you've been a fan of the show for a while, you know this already, but if you're new here or following me on social media, you'll see that I'm a big fan of systems and routines, specifically for your personal life, so that it can show up in your professional life as well. And Stanley is a king at this. He turned his entire whole life experience into one big system. And he did it because that's really how his brain works. And it allowed him to kind of fall into place and created this. And again, he calls it the way of excellence. And it's really built around a lot of things that we talk about here as prime performers, like awareness, long-term thinking, taking personal responsibility, perspective, willingness, belief, discipline, commitment, integration of mind, body, and spirit. But out of all of this stuff, what really blew my mind is that he created all of this stuff and it's all for free. He put it out there for everybody in the world to consume and take this and live better lives. Like, he's created books, videos, frameworks, doesn't put anything behind a paywall, not gated by an email opt-in. For Stanley, this is the mission that matters more than money. So he's packaged it all up so that's easily digestible and put it out there for everybody to just check it out. And this is awesome because Stanley's philosophy aligns deeply with what we've got here for prime performers. Talking about resilience, Stanley shares about how growth through truth and ownership is the real way to build that strength and resilience. Inputs determine outputs. That's exactly what we talk about when it comes to intentionality. Clarity, it's all about stop lying to yourself, leaning into your true direction, your authentic selves. Optimization, I mean, that's all Stanley does is systems, building systems, so it beats the motivation. And then the identity is all about that, becoming the person who lives the standard. Different language, but it's the same truth. A lot of what he's teaching and preaching is what we believe in here as prime performers. And I also wanted to bring this up too here. So when I asked Stanley what single change he hopes listeners make, his answer was simple: change your beliefs. He really just wants to let everybody know that you want to believe that you can, believe that you're capable of, believe change is possible, because belief compounds. And 17 years of compounding turns you into someone totally unrecognizable, but in the best way. So if you're interested in checking out any of this information and material that Stanley's been put together over the years, best place to do that is at thewayofexcellence.com. Like I said before, you'll find a lot of material on there. You'll see tons of free books, short educational videos. You'll find the full system that he's got up there. And you'll also find a way to contact Stanley directly. No pressure, no pitches, just tools to create a better life for yourself. And just a final reflection for you guys on this episode here is, keep in mind, Stanley didn't just lose that 220 pounds, 220 plus pounds. He really lost excuses, self-deception, short-term thinking. In exchange, he gained so much more. He gained health, agency, purpose, and peace. So if you take one thing from that episode, let it be this: you don't need everything to change. You need to tell yourself the truth and then act on it. Change doesn't start with motivation. It starts with awareness, real awareness, the kind that moves you to actually take action. So as always, choose deliberately and keep surviving the side hustle. Talk to you guys next time. Peace, peace, peace. And that's it for this episode of Surviving the Side Hustle. If you found this valuable, the best way to support the show is to rate and review on Apple or Spotify. It helps get the show in front of more driven individuals just like you, and helps them discover the tools to get unstuck, break through burnout, and build something real. And you can always connect deeper with me, our guests, or grab free resources at survivingthesidehustle.com/Rob. Whether it's a strategy call, the Prime Performance Personality Quiz, some of our products, or just to check out our free content library, connect with us over at survivingthesidehustle.com/Rob. And hey, remember this, you weren't meant to just grind. You were built to grow. So stay conscious, stay committed, and keep showing up. Peace, guys.